Hey guys, what's up? Shaw here, and today we're going to be taking a look at Shrine of the Storm and how to skip the Guardian Elemental. Now, this is under the assumption that you're not already going to be skipping the Guardian Elemental using the Obelisk or something like that, and you're trying to figure out a way to either skip this mob because it's getting to a point where it's too difficult for your group to kill, or if you want to be more effective with percentages. So the big thing about this mob in Shrine of the Storm is that it's not very effective to pull. It takes a very long time. It's a pretty dangerous mob if your healer's not on top of dispels and your group doesn't have good personal cooldowns like Aura Mastery or Darkness. And it's just getting to a point where you're just wasting a lot of time. So if you don't know what I'm talking about exactly, we're going to be I'm going to show you guys first an MDT, and then I'll be going over to like kind of a highlight reel. So assuming that you're going to be doing most of your Shrine of the Storm run, the front half, when I do this dungeon with my group, we tend to go very, very heavy trash in the first half of the dungeon, and then we're going to be using Obelisk to skip the rest of the way. Now, under the assumption that you're not just dragging this Obelisk all the way down to here, which some groups do, and this is totally all right, then obviously just you can leave this video now. Just don't forget to hit that like button. But assuming you're not doing this and you're pulling this somewhere else in the dungeon that's before this Guardian Elemental, I want to go over how you can skip this guy. Now, this is a little bit more niche strategy. If you don't have an invisibility, if you don't have some kind of way to drop combat like a Shadow Meld, things like Vanish, other things like invisibility from mages and feign death from hunters, is a little bit harder to pull off, and you will typically have to sacrifice someone here. If you're going to just do this skip, you have to just sacrifice a death and get a mass res, and then it becomes a little bit more difficult because you have to get the mass res off, and you have to keep in mind that this patrol is here padding between these two. So essentially what's going to be happening in this video is you're going to see the group is going to be starting in this corner here. So it's right after we kill this group of mobs. This is actually pretty good percent here. So this group is going to be hugging up against the side of the ledge here as close as they can. And the person who's designated to do the skip is going to tag the Guardian Elemental, and they're going to drag it back into this room, into where it's line of sight. And then what this is going to allow the group to do is they're not going to get in combat because they're going to be far enough away, and as long as you don't have like a heal or any kind of thing that's on the tank that's going to cause you to rip aggro or kind of generate threat, the group's just going to run across and dip right down onto the ledge here and just wait for the player to finish what they're doing, whether it's a rogue, hunter, or someone with Shadow Meld. So that's kind of the strategy. This thing is only worth 5%, and 5% does sound like a lot, but not when you keep into account that it has 17 million health on a 21 key, and this is a fortified week as well. So this thing has a lot of health, and it's fairly dangerous. It's not stunnable. It does a lot of damage. And essentially how this skip is going to work is you're going to be baiting out these spells. So it's going to do the electrifying shock on the player that it's targeting that it has aggro on, but in order to do this, it has to have line of sight. So that's why we're trying to get out of LOS, so it will run all the way in here. And then when it puts this on you and starts to channel the Shipbreak Storm, you're able to run out of the room really, really quick, get the Shadow Meld, get the Feign, and whatever, and then you just continue pulling, and the Guardian Elemental will reset once it's done channeling. So let's take a look at how this is going to be executed here. So this is my group. We were just messing around actually this week with Sanguine and Quaking. So this is just a 21. We have kind of a standard group. Because we're Alliance, we have 3 players with Shadow Meld, but I will be doing this, so you'll see it from my perspective. So as you guys can see, my group is off on the ledge here. We have the healer and obviously the 3 DPS, and there is the Guardian Elemental. Let me just turn down the sound really quick on this one. So essentially what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be tagging this with Moonfire, and I'm going to be using Dash to get back here. Now, you don't have to use Dash. You don't have to use Speed Boost. Essentially what I'm doing is I'm just trying to get him here, and I don't want to be in line of sight too long or he'll do that electrifying shock like I talked about earlier. So then what we're going to be doing is we're going to be coming way behind this pillar here, and we're just hanging out. So what I just did there is I actually removed, if you saw my mouse come up here, I removed Glimmer, just in case. I didn't know if it was going to pull aggro, and if it went onto Egg, he has no way, because he's a paladin, he doesn't have meld, he has no way to drop combat outside of dying. So we didn't want that to happen. So this elemental is now going to follow me all the way back here. I'm going into bear form just to be safe. Now this guy does a lot of damage. Not that it's necessarily going to help. I'm going to bait it here. And now because he took so long before casting Electrifying Shock, he's going to go right into Shipbreak Storm as soon as he has line of sight on me. So when that happens, because he's LOS on this pillar here, even when I run through, I may take 1 tick, but because I don't have that Electrifying Shock, it's not going to be dangerous. So a rogue is really good at this because they can pop Cloak just in case. Obviously, things like Hunter has Turtle as well, so they can get out pretty quickly. So then what I'm going to be doing is I'm actually popping a Lightfoot Potion. If you're a Druid and you're a Night Elf specifically doing this, you don't have to use Dash to get back, and you can use Dash to get out. You don't have to use a Lightfoot Potion. That's kind of personal preference at this point. So he's still channeling. It's like a 5-second channel. And as soon as I get to the bridge here, this is where I'm popping Meld. You can see down in the very lower corner here that it's a 2-minute cooldown now. I'm popping Meld, and we accidentally pulled this pad, and that's what I'm talking about. So we got a cage on one, a Hodge on the other, giving me enough time to get here. Just because these guys are in combat doesn't mean now they're all in combat with the Guardian Elemental. As long as I don't engage here, we should be good. So I got the meld. I go into bear form, and I'm going to pick up these aggro's before anyone dies. And then you'll see in a second that this Guardian Elemental will reset. So the Guardian Elemental will now be kind of running out of the room here. But I don't know if I have my camera on him long enough, but you'll see him just reset, and you can make your way through the rest of the dungeon. Now, there he is. So if you just go back just a little bit, you'll see him now standing on the bridge, reset, and we're fully skipped without having to skip the obelisk. We got a lot of the percentage earlier. Now, the one thing I have to say with this skip in particular is if you die at this point between now and the next boss, the keys probably burn. Just because you have to do that skip again, and if you have meld, it's fine. But you're wasting a lot of time doing this. If it goes well. So, like, it's a good thing to practice. Like, if you're doing lower keys, or if you fail a key early and you just know it's going to be a wipe, get to this point in practice. If this is something that your group feels like they need to execute. I've been doing this in Season 3. I know a lot of groups just drag the obelisk here now at this point. But if you're still kind of old school like my group is and likes to get some of that earlier trash, Runecarver's Sorin, if done properly, is fairly easy and good percentage. Also, his rune is really, really good for pulling additional trash in because you get that massive 75% damage reduction. And we do Heldis as well because we typically have cooldowns coming out of boss because we use them on pull, coming out of boss, and they're coming back up, so we will tackle Heldis there. So that's how you skip this boss, or this Guardian Elemental. It's not too tactical. Again, it's a little bit more niche. If you don't have a way to drop aggro, the player has to basically soak the Shipbreaker Storm pretty much like right here in the doorway, giving your group enough time to get here and get the res. Now, again, the issue with that is if this patrol. So you guys can use CCs, Ring of Pieces, in caps, hexes, polymorphs to stop these guys from moving and padding into you without pulling combat. And that's another way to do it. So it takes a lot of team effort. But this is, if done properly, this is a very time efficient and percentage efficient skip. And then that leaves you the rest of the dungeon to continue, pulling the rest of these mobs, maybe getting the skip here if you also killed Heldis. And then basically just dragging this obelisk all the way up to, oh, that's definitely up the screen, all the way up here. And then you can skip the rest of this trash, and then you just keep on going. So I hope this guide helps. I hope it makes sense. If you guys have any questions, feel free to let me know. I know this is obviously like really, really late. Beta's obviously out for Shadowlands, and we're kind of wrapping up this expansion. But I feel like this is a good series, and a lot of you guys have been giving me good feedback on it. So keep those suggestions coming, and I will see you guys in the next one. Take care.